Awesome. So I need a little bit help of understanding what's going on between the two, because
Yeah.
one of them feels like it's a bigger thing, and then like the other one was like a first iteration where you only had like users under the admin. So I was like, one conversation is happening at a really like high level, and it's like I'm gonna change admin completely, and another one is like here is the link. So yeah, I couldn't weigh in on the conversation because I was slightly confused about what's what.
Yep. I understand. Let's see. So let me share screen real quick.
Awesome.
So this one
Mm,
is the first step for this epic of showing the workspace container. And so the idea is that we want to use this as an MVC to bring over the users panel as one of the MVCs. There's also, where's the other one? Sorry, they have a construction team outside, so if you're hearing noises, that's them.
yeah, that's all
So
good.
this was the iteration that we're working on. There was another proposal about bringing groups, and a third about bringing issues and boards. This one felt more complicated because the main problem that I have is that, let's see here, whenever my GDK wants to load. This is kind of the topic that I was discussing here in this visual about how we have, let's zoom in. We have the nav items on the left. And as an MVC, we're just going to have the users. So then that's a part of admin, right? So my problem is, well, what should the workplace, or excuse me, workspace be? Is it going to be long-term thinking? I want it to be, geez, this thing is taking forever. The top nav, or excuse me, I want it to be a place where an organization can go and look and see all of their objects, all of their groups, all of their issues, boards, milestones, et cetera, which I was describing here, that we've had previous discussions about, don't necessarily live in a screen or don't have an interface or an interaction point apart from this menu. You don't understand, or we don't see how they exist as part of an organization. So you click on security and it just exists as security. However, from what Workspace is supposed to be, it's supposed to contain all of this as your organization, right? So my concern is, if I were to manifest this as only the users in the admin area, am I setting myself up for a problem in defining the navigation by not creating an object for that menu dropdown and saying, this is where all these things will exist in the future, and we're only going to manifest overview users under the admin dropdown for the time being? Or am I overcomplicating it? And that's kind of what the proposal was, or the feedback issue that I tagged everyone in to see, would that help or would that cause more problems?
Yeah. So I think there is my confusion because I was thinking about it coming from the menu, the drop down top nav menu, and if you click on admin, and I'm taken to workspace, and there's just users. What happens to the other things?
Exactly. Let's see, where's
have you thought about, yeah.
I thought I had iterations. Let me try here.
I love how your GDK is still spinning.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous. I don't know what's going on with it. Let me just try to reboot it.
there are days, but some days it works beautifully, and you're just
Yeah.
like, I love this thing. And then the other days it's just like you're like going for dinner and it's still
Yeah.
spinning, and you started at like breakfast.
Let's see. This one. I was just looking at this, wasn't I? No. Let me look in my Figma app because I have the window open somewhere.
Okay, cool.
1 second.
While you're looking for that, one of the comments that I raised a few weeks ago was a question like, oh, is admin replacing workspaces? And you kind of replied back, essentially that's what this thing is for self-managed, I believe. Have you thought
That's
about yeah,
no, go ahead.
I was thinking from some of the designs that you're just showing right now, would it be crazy to rename admin to workspace
That's
with
what we were
the
thinking
URL?
for the first MVC.
Mm,
And so that was my kind of confusion here. So this is what we're looking at.
yeah.
Is that if we do that, does that cause confusion in the future? So the idea is that this would be the first iteration. Second iteration, we bring over groups. The next iteration, we bring over things like issues, whatever. But this is where the problems start becoming apparent, is because if we look at the current nav, issues only exist under a project or a group and not in the admin section, right? So this is the current admin section. And that obviously doesn't make sense to put it in admin. And that's where I'm saying, have I painted myself into a corner by thinking about it, by just manifesting the admin screen versus thinking about it from a top-down level where we look at this container as a whole and say, this is what workspace will actually be, would be this drop-down window that contains all these objects plus the admin screen, right? Because the workspace in principle came from the idea that we want to bring parity between the .com and the self-managed environment by allowing people to have admin features, but also as a way to have visibility across their whole organization. So laterally across all their groups and across all of their milestones or anything else that is normally organized by group container only, but having a vision or visibility across the entire organization and not just in one container, one group.
That makes sense. Yes. So then would the MVC then be to introduce issues at this high level and see how that goes?
Yeah. And that's kind of what I tagged the plan team about, is like, what are they thinking about this? If we're talking about this topic, how does this logic or this visual break our environment or break our navigation? And so that feedback from the rest of the organization, say, hey, am I thinking about this wrong? Am I trying to go too small of an MVC by just doing this one thing, rather than saying, let's think about this more logically? Workspace is going to functionally be this container in the future.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I think, let me show you two things. I'm going to show you a competitor. I did a competitor evaluation, and I think there might be something here that might be interesting in this sense. So
Mhm.
I'm just going to share the screen and then take everything with a grain of salt with what I'm saying, because I thought about this a lot less than you have. So you know how the menu buttons here right now, like at this top, uh, after GitLab, like
Yeah.
after the GitLab logo, and during like a few milestones ago, even before we released it to the public, some people were like, "What's up with this like menu layout?" And as in like there's a menu icon and menu, and more traditionally, if you go to like you see it over here, the menu
Mhm.
button in the top, most top left.
Yeah.
Um, so I explored that idea for this, where it was on the left hand side,
Yeah.
and the reason I was thinking about this was I was also thinking about, you remember that other crazy navigation I had where I had like just the icons, and when you clicked on it, the whole panel, so it would be like the
Yeah. It's like,
collapsed view, and then it would,
yeah, the
yeah.
tertiary level.
Yeah. So I was thinking along on the lines of those kinds of things, and so keep that in mind. Um, so this is IBM Cloud. I don't know if you've seen their stuff, but this is like their high level items here. So let me
Mhm.
see if I can expand it out. So there's all these things. So if I go into something like functions, now I'm inside a functions menu. So this to me is like our project menu, right?
Yeah.
So like in a project level, and then if I want to go back to that workspace, like super duper high level area, it's up here,
Yeah.
right?
That
And
makes a lot
then
of
you have like
sense.
your GitLab, your dashboard start page, whether this becomes Marcel's like homepage start page thing, or a good spot for Mache and growth to like add stuff in. This feels like a natural spot for it. These are high level items, and then you jump into a project. So I could imagine like recently viewed projects somewhere here. If
Mhm.
I jumped into that, it would be like here. And we didn't make the change because we basically did the solution validation for this maybe like 2 weeks before launch, and we are just like, let's keep that. We can always iterate later, but let's get some stuff out, feedback from customers, and see where we go from here.
Mhm. Yeah, this I
Looking
like
where
a
we're
lot.
at, right? Yeah.
This is exactly what I was trying to think about, is that how do you show that separation of content or
Mm,
hierarchy? And I think that makes sense. Like that's what I was trying to figure out, is that we need like some sort of landing page or dashboard, like what we saw in the IBM cloud page, where
mm,
the top level nav exists, because we don't necessarily
mm.
have something like that.
No.
And the idea is that this could offer a user an environment to have dashboard items, like a high level overview about their boards or usage metrics or whatever sort of data they want to view across an organization at the top level, right?
Yeah.
And the idea that you have on the left, or that IBM has on the left, about it's just a container in the navigation, and then it switches
Yeah.
you to a new navigation environment, and you switch
Yeah.
back and forth by going to the little hamburger menu at the top. That makes a lot of
Mm,
sense, because it also controls the number of navigation elements within the left nav, which is obviously problematic. And that was something else that I was concerned
mm,
about, is that in the future, how much more of the left nav is going to be populated by other features. So I do quite like
mhm.
this a bit. It keeps things simple. It's just that we
Yeah.
don't have that. I haven't prepared or
No.
investigated that dashboard or homepage MVC, but I do keep on bringing it up. I've spoken with growth, and I've spoken with the plan
Mm,
folks about that, because there's discussion about that. I had conversation with you a bit about it when we were talking about your changes to the menu nav, the top nav. So
mm.
it's been something that's been on my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So so the reason I showed you that is what I think I'm doing when I'm showing you that is, don't let the current menu hold you back on what's really right. if you feel it it should belong there right now, um, then go for it.
Hmm.
As in that like a top menu thing, because whether those dashboard things really belong there or not is also another question. The only thing that's like 100% sure people are like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, is like admin projects groups usage on those dashboards. I don't know, but
Hmm.
so I feel like it's a good place to start, because the value add you're doing is like looking at issues. I think there's a bigger question about like what that navigation is, and I think from a UX standpoint, that's like the conflicting part of your soul right now, is like, oh, I want to introduce this thing, but like the IA is completely wrong, or like where we're sticking it in, the IA is completely wrong. This is like, it hurts me so much to do
Yeah.
this. uh,
Yeah.
it's
That's
like,
exactly what
and
I'm
I think
thinking.
that's and I feel like that's the part where you're saying, did I complicate things by putting this one thing in? But I think deep down, that one thing is actually pushing the right conversation. But maybe it's getting lost amongst all these other things. It's getting lost amongst like, is there a navigation from top nav? Is it like just a label change? Is it this, that? Because I think in the position that you're in, you may not have enough information to say, yeah, we're doing this IBM cloud like parent level menu thing,
Hmm.
because your PM is going to say, nah, we're not doing that because we only have so much, we have a billion things to do. And editor group is, we're not really taking on too many new navigation things. We're like fielding them, but I think everyone's just waiting for foundations to take over soon. But they're still hiring front end engineers and all that stuff, and getting their team up to speed in the
Hmm.
PM to prioritize, etc. So yeah, I think you're in a. That's why it's tricky. I think you had the right mentality and thinking going on, and the way you're presenting stuff. Right now, I see everything much clearer than I did earlier today. But I think, given what cards you're dealt with right now, it's like, where do I put this thing?
Yeah.
Everywhere is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. It's basically what it's coming down to. Well, that's good. I'm glad that I've helped clarify the mud a bit.
Yes, yes, yes. No, no, it clarified it a lot.
Cool.
It also like, yeah, our group was thinking about, because a part of me has always wanted to revert back like the menu to like projects and groups, just because of different backlashes. But people like Marcel and like my PM is saying like there was one talk of like consolidating this menu to like have a single platform for a high level view. We actually achieved that because people are like, oh, it's easier to get to these things, but I never use these things.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's almost like we solved the problem, but it's not really, that was not really the real problem.
Yeah.
But it kind of opens the door for you, right? Like, if these dashboard things are not that useful, like I did some tracking, very light tracking on them, and they don't get many views, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 views in a month. And it's like, there's probably a better way to surface them. And
Mm.
maybe like one idea I had was tucking all of them into another sub menu called dashboards, and like milestone snippets and all that would be there. And that opens up the space for more useful stuff potentially. But yeah, I don't know how big Workspaces is going to get, because from what you've shown me with admin, it's huge, right? Like it's essentially parity of admin, right?
Yeah. And think about workspaces as part of the step to re-architect the entire environment, because we want to merge groups and projects on the back end in terms of their technological behaviors, to try and reduce some of the confusion of the why these things look or behave differently. Like, why can't I just put issues in a group, or why can't I just have everything in one project, or vice versa. So yeah,
Which
this
group
is all
looking
part of the
after that?
problem. A lot of us. So access and plan. Gabe Weaver's been doing a lot of research around this. Melissa Ushkov, my old PM, she was doing a lot of work around this also. But yeah, most of the problem right now is back-end stuff, because we just have to break that technological debt and the wall that's been defined there. So that's the real backlog for us. So which gives me time because I can still investigate or play with this before it moves forward. But the workspace is the kind of theoretical first iteration because it's giving the environment a container to say now we can interact within this environment in both self-managed and .com.
Interesting. Yeah, projects and groups was one thing I came up in the IA of this top nav so many times. I don't know how many times I told Marcel, my PM, all I wish I could do is just combine projects and groups into one thing, and my life is happy. Everything else.
It's supposed to happen sooner or later, but it's definitely on the roadmap.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. So like a lot of people are like, it's so hard to switch between projects and groups. Like, yes, soon, my friend, soon. But I can't tell them anything at the same time. So it's just like,
well, just refer them to that issue. Just refer them to the merging groups and projects issue, and just say, please add feedback here.
Oh yeah, if you can send me that link, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, that's gonna be a big project. Oh, but it's so good.
Yeah. I don't know why I can't find it. I'll dig it up and I'll send it to you. I'll CC you or FYI you on it.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Perfect. Thanks, Daniel.
Well, cool.
For
this was
taking the
good.
time to explain this.
No, thanks for meeting. This was great. I'm glad people wanted to reach out and talk more about it.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too. Bye.